curiosity overcame fear. He approached her room while she slept. Her chest rose and fell steadily. Her eyes were closed, but the faint glow of gold skin markings shimmered under the dim lights. He hesitated, feeling something he had not felt before: respect, fear, both. He couldn't tell. He reached out to touch her arm. She opened her eyes instantly, gold and bright, alive, all-knowing. He jerked his hand back. She didn't move closer, didn't attack. She simply stared at him, calm, unyielding. "You hear them?" she asked softly. Her voice was a melody, strange and commanding. "Across the stars, they hunt me." Rick swallowed hard. "They who?" "They do not know yet," she said. "But when they do, every world that has ever defied me will burn." He wanted to laugh, to tell her she was just one alien, trapped and weak. But her words carried weight. They were not threats. They were facts. And he felt their weight press down on him like gravity. Rick tried to control her, tried to remind himself that she was just another slave. Yet every day he noticed her patience. Her silence was not fear. It was strategy. She watched. She calculated. She remembered every insult, every strike, every command he gave. Across the galaxy, fleets were moving closer to Karanine. Scouts had reported unusual energy signatures. Spies had traced rumors of an injured alien being kept by humans. The Dominion's warships, black and gold with fearsome weapons, were converging. They were coming for their Empress, and she was waiting. For Rick, life had begun to twist into terror he could not name. The whispers of the workers, the strange hum of machines, the way her eyes followed him, of it built a tension he could not escape. For the first time, he realized he had made a grave mistake. He thought of the strikes, the insults, the chains. Each one felt heavier now, like invisible weights tied around his chest. He had thought her broken, weak, a tool. He had been wrong. Zyra moved like a shadow through her small room, sorting scrap quietly, but Rick could see the power in her every motion. She did not need to fight. She did not need to scream. Her presence was enough to change the room, the compound, the very air around them. That night, Rick sat alone, staring at the empty sky. Distant flashes ships in the void, he guessed made him shiver. Somewhere in the darkness, the galaxy was mobilizing. Somewhere, fleets were searching for her. And he held her, unknowingly. He held the deadliest woman in the galaxy. He did not know the name, Zyravale. He did not know the empires she ruled, or the power she commanded. He only knew fear creeping into his chest. The kind of fear that keeps you awake. The kind that whispers, you are nothing compared to her. The galaxy was hunting. She was waiting. And Rick Dannon, once confident, cruel, in control, was learning what it truly meant to be powerless. In the silence of her chains, Zyra smiled faintly. Not cruelly, not angrily. She simply knew that the moment of reckoning was coming. And when it did, she would not forget anyone who had wronged her. The dawn on Karanine was pale and cold, but inside the small compound, the air seemed heavier than ever. Rick Dannon woke to a silence that pressed against his chest. He rubbed his eyes and noticed something strange. The alien woman, Zyra, was not on the floor where he had left her. She was standing. Her posture was taller, straighter than ever. The chains around her wrists had not been broken, yet they hung loosely, almost as if they obeyed her will. Her silver blue blood, which had stained the floor for days, had vanished from her body. Bruises and cuts were gone. She looked complete, powerful, alive in a way that made the walls of the compound seem smaller, weaker. Rick froze. He had expected her to struggle, to falter, to obey. He did not expect this. Her eyes opened slowly, glowing gold in the dim light. She looked at him with a calm that made his stomach twist. It was not anger. It was not fear. It was certainty, absolute, unshakable certainty. The kind only an emperor could carry. "Rick Danin," she said softly, her voice carrying weight like a tide pulling at the shore. "You have treated me like a tool, a slave, a weak thing to be controlled." He opened his mouth to reply, but no sound came out. She stepped forward, and the air around her seemed to vibrate. Even the metal floor beneath her feet hummed faintly, responding to her presence. Rick's heart pounded. He realized he had underestimated her entirely. Every insult, every strike, every act of cruelty he had committed now hung in the room like a storm cloud. "You thought me powerless," she continued. "You thought silence meant submission. You thought weakness was who I am. You were wrong." Rick took a cautious step back, reaching for the blaster at his side. The weapon trembled in his hands. She did not move to attack, but he felt the power in her gaze as if it could crush him without lifting a finger. Then he saw the first signs of something he had only glimpsed before: energy bending, subtle but undeniable. Sparks jumped from broken machinery nearby, and lights flickered as she walked past. Even the air seemed heavier where she moved, thickening with an invisible force. "Do you understand now?" she asked. Her voice was calm, almost gentle, but each word struck him like a hammer. Rick swallowed hard. I thought you were just—" He trailed off. The truth was impossible to say. He had thought her weak. He had thought her injured. He had thought she was beneath him. "You thought wrong," she said, her eyes never leaving his. "I am Zyra Vale, Empress of the Varelian Dominion, conqueror of 11 empires. The galaxy remembers my name, Rick Danin, and it will not forget yours." The words filled the room like fire. Rick's knees went weak. He realized fully, finally, the depth of his mistake. The woman he had treated like a slave, the one he had struck, insulted and chained, was the deadliest ruler in the galaxy. She did not need armies. She did not need weapons. She only needed her presence to remind him of that. Outside, the sky trembled. Tiny flashes of light appeared on the horizon ships, thousands of them, moving silently but with purpose. Scouts, soldiers. The Dominion was coming. And they were coming for their Empress. Rick's mind raced. He wanted to speak, to apologize, to explain. He wanted to fight. He wanted to run. None of it mattered. She was already beyond him in every way that counted. Zyra stepped closer. She did not touch him. She did not strike. She simply stood there, gold eyes piercing into him. "You will remember this day," she said softly. "Not because of mercy, but because you will never forget power." Rick felt his chest tighten. His past cruelty, his arrogance, every choice he had made, all of it seemed meaningless now. He had held the galaxy's most dangerous ruler in chains, and he had failed to break her. For the first time, he understood what true power looked like. Not the blasters, the weapons, or the armies. Not the fear of others. True power was quiet. True power was patience. True power could heal from injury, could remain silent, could wait for the perfect moment. Zyra raised her head slightly, as if sensing the coming fleet. The glow of her eyes grew brighter, stronger. The chains that had bound her wrists rattled softly, as if acknowledging her command. Rick backed away, stumbling, trying to find a place to hide, but there was nowhere. She filled the room. She was the room. And in that moment, Rick Dannon realized the truth. He had not captured a prisoner. He had awakened a storm. The galaxy was coming, and so was she. The horizon split open with light. Shadows of massive starships, black and gold, cut across the sky above Kara 9. Rick Dannon stumbled outside, eyes wide in disbelief. He had seen warships before, but these were unlike anything he had imagined. Sleek, sharp, alive, almost each one carrying hundreds of warriors loyal to a single purpose. They were here for one reason, their Empress, and she was standing beside him, calm as if nothing had changed. Her chains lay loose, her wounds healed, her aura commanding. Even in silence, she filled the space with authority so immense that Rick felt smaller than an insect under a magnifying glass. Soldiers began landing in formation, moving with perfect synchronicity. They knelt the moment they saw her, heads bowed, weapons lowered. Their loyalty was absolute. They did not hesitate. They did not question. They only obeyed. Rick could not speak. He wanted to run, but his legs refused to move. The truth crashed over him in waves. This was not just an alien. This was the Empress of the galaxy, the woman whose name alone had caused empires to tremble, and he had chained her, insulted her, and struck her like she was nothing. Zyra's golden eyes found him. She did not shout. She did not scream. She simply regarded him with a steady, piercing gaze. "You," she said, her voice low but filled with weight, "have treated me as a tool, as a slave, as one beneath your consideration." Rick tried to reply. His throat was dry, words failing him. She continued, "By the laws of my empire, your punishment should be swift. Your world should burn. Your name should be erased." But her eyes softened ever so slightly, just enough to make him shiver. "I choose not to destroy you. Not yet." The soldiers behind her shifted, unsure if they should intervene. Zyra raised a hand, and the room and the world seemed to pause. Her power radiated outward, tangible and suffocating. "You showed me cruelty," she said, her gaze fixed on him. "And yet, in your ignorance, you also showed me humanity. You acted as humans often do, flawed, blind, and yet capable of change." Rick's knees buckled. His arrogance, his pride, his sense of control of it shattered. He had faced death before, faced enemies stronger and crueler than any human could imagine. But nothing had prepared him for this moment, standing alive before a being who could have destroyed him with a thought and chose mercy instead. The soldiers watched silently, waiting for her command, and she gave none. Not a single order to fire, not a single order to strike. She had chosen restraint, a choice that carried more power than rage. "You will live," she said, her tone cold but fair, "and you will remember every moment of this lesson. Every insult, every strike, every failure. You will remember that power without mercy is hollow, and cruelty without purpose is weakness." Rick swallowed hard, the enormity of her mercy crushing him. He had survived because she willed it, not because of skill, not because of luck, not because of strength. She had the power to obliterate him and his world, and she chose to teach him instead. Behind her, the fleet waited, silent and patient. They had come across the galaxy to reclaim their Empress. They had seen planets burn, fleets destroyed, enemies crushed. And yet, here, on this dusty, broken world, their leader acted not with vengeance, but with measured judgment. Rick staggered backward, falling to the ground. His pride was gone, his confidence shattered. All that remained was awe, fear, and a growing understanding of what he had done. He had underestimated a queen. He had underestimated the galaxy. Zyra turned from him, moving toward the landing pads. Her soldiers followed without question. Her presence alone commanded the universe. The air seemed charged with power, vibrating with the promise of unstoppable force, restrained only by choice. Rick sat there, alone and trembling, realizing that everything he thought he knew about strength, power, and survival was wrong. He had been holding the galaxy's deadliest ruler in chains, and now she had judged him not with fire, but with mercy that burned into his soul. For the first time, he understood that true power was not in weapons or armies. True power was control over one's will. True power was patience, understanding, and the choice to spare. And he would never forget this day. Zyra Vale, the deadliest empress in the galaxy, had returned, and Rick Dannon, who once treated her like a slave, had been reminded that mercy could be the most terrifying weapon of all. The compound was quiet now. The fleet had landed in formation outside, but there was no chaos. No screaming, no fighting, only the hum of powerful engines, a reminder of the Empress's presence. Rick Dannon sat on the cold floor, head hung low, staring at the ground. He could feel her eyes on him, even when she moved silently across the room. Zyra Vale, the woman he had once treated like a broken slave, walked slowly toward him. Every step she took carried weight. Every movement seemed effortless, yet deliberate. She did not rush. She did not need to. The power she held was absolute, yet controlled. Rick felt his chest tighten. It was suffocating, and he could not look away. "You will live," she said again, her voice soft but filled with authority. "But your life is no gift. It is a lesson. You will remember what you have done. You will remember every cruelty, every insult. And you will remember why it matters that power is never used recklessly." Rick nodded, though he had no words. His mind raced with guilt and fear. He had chained her, beaten her, treated her as less than human. And now she was standing before him alive, unharmed and merciful. He had expected fire, death, revenge. Instead, he received a lesson heavier than any punishment. Zyra knelt slightly, lowering herself to his level, not to comfort, not to beg, but to show him that mercy was a choice, not weakness. Her golden eyes glimmered, reflecting something deeper than anger. "Understanding, you showed me what humans are," she said. "Flawed, yes. Cruel, yes. Yet capable of change. You did not know who I was, and in your ignorance, you acted as many humans do without understanding the consequences. But I see potential in this." Rick swallowed hard. He had never imagined that his actions, his cruelty, could teach someone like her anything. And yet, he realized that her mercy was not a sign of weakness. It was strength, far greater than the blasters and fleets she commanded. It was the power to choose life over destruction, to teach rather than to punish. "Your mercy," he whispered, voice trembling. Why spare me?" Zyra straightened. "Because mercy is the hardest choice," she said simply. "It is not born of fear. It is not born of weakness. It is born of understanding. Power is not truly measured by what you can destroy, but by what you can protect, even when you have every reason to destroy it. Outside, her fleet waited in perfect silence. Planets that had once feared her now could breathe, even if only for a moment. She could have destroyed Karen 9 for the cruelty shown to her. She could have burned the outpost to ash, teaching the galaxy that no one defies Zyravale. But she did not. She chose restraint. She chose to demonstrate that humans, flawed, reckless, and unaware, were capable of lessons learned. Rick felt the weight of this truth settle over him. He had believed he held the power. He had thought he controlled her, and now he realized the bitter irony. He had been the one imprisoned by his ignorance, by his arrogance, by the magnitude of her mercy. Zyra stepped back and motioned toward the exit. Her soldiers followed in perfect order, yet not a single weapon was raised. Her power did not need to be displayed. Her presence alone was enough. Rick understood that he had witnessed something rare in the galaxy, the combination of ultimate power and ultimate restraint. "Do not waste your life," she said quietly, addressing him one last time. "Learn from this. Remember your failures, and teach others that cruelty without thought, weakness without understanding, and power without restraint are the true dangers in this universe." Then, without another word, she moved toward her fleet. The engines hummed to life, golden light reflecting across the outpost. Rick watched, frozen in awe, as the Empress who could have destroyed him with a thought now chose to leave him alive. Alive, but changed forever. As the fleet lifted off, the sky seemed to brighten. Karen 9, a world that had known only fear and decay, felt lighter. And Rick Dannon, a man who had treated the deadliest woman in the galaxy as a slave, understood the depth of his mistakes. In that moment, he realized the lesson of humanity itself, that mercy, courage, and understanding could exist even in the darkest of heart sand, that even humans, flawed and small, could touch greatness if they chose to learn. Zyra Vale's presence faded from the sky, but her lesson remained. One human life had been spared to carry it forward, and somewhere deep inside, Rick knew that the galaxy would never forget it. The sky over Karen cleared, leaving pale light on the dusty ground. The fleet of Zyravale had vanished into the void, carrying their Empress back to the stars she ruled. Silence settled over the outpost, but it was not peace. It was awe. A quiet reminder that power, when tempered with mercy, could shape the fate of worlds. Rick Dannon remained on the ground, staring at the horizon long after the last ship disappeared. His body ached, his mind raced, and yet his chest carried a weight he had never felt before. It was not fear alone. It was humility. It was understanding. It was the knowledge that he had stared into the eyes of the deadliest. Being in the galaxy and survived because she chose mercy. He thought of every insult, every strike, every act of cruelty he had committed in ignorance. They had seemed small, meaningless, a part of survival. But now he understood their magnitude. He had treated someone as a tool, as a slave, not realizing that he held the fate of a galaxy in his hands. And he had been spared not because he deserved it, but because the Empress was greater than vengeance. The humans of Karen began to stir from the edges of the compound. Workers, soldiers, scavengers they had watched in fear as Zyra's fleet landed, had seen her aura, felt the weight of her presence. They whispered to each other, eyes wide, hearts hammering. None dared speak to Rick at first, but he understood. The lesson had been witnessed. Weeks later, the news reached other human colonies. Rumors spread quickly. A human had kept the Empress in chains. A human had survived her judgment. And most importantly, a human had been shown mercy by a being who could have destroyed him and all he loved. Across the galaxy, Zyra Vale returned to her empire. Systems that had once bowed in fear now breathed. For the humans of Karanine had learned a lesson that the galaxy would carry forward. Humanity, flawed and reckless, could be cruel. But humanity could also be taught. Humanity could learn, and when it did, they became more than just survivors. They became something dangerous in a way no empire could ignore. Rick never forgot. He rebuilt his life slowly, quietly, carrying the lesson in every decision he made. He treated others with respect where he could. He listened more than he spoke. He learned that strength without restraint was meaningless. And though he never saw Zyra Vale again, her presence haunted him, a golden reminder that mercy and power were bound together. The galaxy changed quietly. Humans, once considered insignificant, were now treated as allies, respected for their potential, feared for their unpredictability, and valued for their ability to learn from mistakes. They became more than scavengers. On forgotten worlds they became partners, negotiators, even peacemakers. And the story of Rick Dannon and Zyra Vale spread as a legend, a tale of power, mercy, and the potential of humanity to rise above cruelty. Rick would sow. The outpost on Karanine was not a place where heroes were born. It was built from old metal, broken ships, and people who had run out of better choices. The sky above it was always grey, thick with dust from the dead world below. Nothing good came to Karanine. Only survivors did. Rick Dannon had survived a long time. He stood on the landing field when the alarm sounded. A small blip appeared on the radar escape pod, burning as it fell from orbit. Rick smiled. Crashes meant salvage. Salvage meant money. The pod hit the ground hard, carving a deep scar into the black soil. Steam hissed. Metal cracked. Rick approached carefully, blaster ready, boots crunching on broken stone. Inside the pod, he found her. She was not dead. That disappointed him at first. The alien woman lay twisted among wires and shattered panels. Her armor was elegant but ruined, split open at the chest and shoulder. Silver blue blood stained the floor. Her breathing was slow, shallow, but steady. She looked. Small dot, her skin shimmered like dark pearl. Strange markings glowed faintly along her neck and arms. Heavy energy restraints locked her wrists together, damaged but still active. Someone important had been running from something even more dangerous. Rick crouched beside her and tilted her face up with 2 fingers. Alive, he muttered. Lucky me. Her eyes opened. They were gold, deep, calm. They did not look afraid. Rick felt a strange chill, but he pushed it away. He had seen dangerous aliens before. This one was injured, alone, and chained. Power meant nothing when you were helpless. He dragged her from the pod and bound her again, just to be safe. She did not resist. She did not speak. Her gaze stayed on him the entire time, steady and unreadable. Back at the compound, he locked her in a storage room with bare metal walls. No window, no comfort. He tossed her a bottle of water and a ration pack. Don't get ideas, he said. You work when you can stand. She did not answer. Hours passed. Then days. Rick watched her carefully. He expected crying, begging, rage. That was how slaves usually broke. She did none of it. She moved slowly, painfully, but she healed faster than any being he had seen. Her wounds closed too cleanly, too perfectly. When she cleaned scrap or sorted parts, she worked with quiet focus, never wasting motion. The other workers avoided her. There was something about her silence that made their skin crawl. Rick treated her like property. When she slowed, he shouted. When she stumbled, he shoved her forward. He rationed her food, not out of cruelty, but control. He wanted obedience, not death. One night, she collapsed while carrying heavy scrap. Rick kicked her leg. Get up, he snapped. She tried, failed. Something in him snapped too. He struck her across the face. The sound echoed through the room. For a moment, everything was still. Then she looked up at him, not with anger, not with fear, with memory. Rick stepped back without meaning to. Her eyes burned softly, like stars seen through smoke. Her lips parted, but no words came. Instead, she lowered her gaze again and pushed herself up, blood trailing down her chin. She continued working. That night, Rick could not sleep. He dreamed of fire falling from the sky, of planets screaming, of a woman standing untouched in the flames. He woke in a cold sweat, angry at himself. She's nothing, he growled into the dark. Just another broken alien. He did not know her name. He did not know that across the galaxy, fleets were mobilizing, that rulers were panicking, that entire worlds were being questioned, threatened, erased, all because one being was missing, and she was locked in his compound, scrubbing rust from the floor, waiting because Empress Zyravale, the deadliest ruler the galaxy had ever known, had learned patience long before she learned mercy. Days passed, but nothing about her changed. Rick watched her with growing irritation. She cleaned, she sorted, she followed orders, but she never begged. She never cried. She never broke. Most slaves would have. Most humans, most aliens would have. But not her. She moved with quiet precision, calm and unflinching, as if the world around her was unimportant. Rick tried to understand it. He asked her questions. Who are you? Where do you come from? Who sent you? She did not answer, not once. Her eyes met his only when she needed something, a ration, a tool, but even then there was no emotion. Just focus. Cold, unshakable focus. It made him uneasy. Humans feared power they could not see, and she had it. Even in chains, even bleeding and broken, he felt it radiating from her. The air around her seemed heavier. Machines nearby sometimes sputtered or misfired when she was angry or impatient. He noticed, but he ignored it. He told himself it was imagination. At night, Rick would hear her whisper. It was a language he did not recognize. The words were soft, almost melodic, but the vibrations made his teeth ache. Once he leaned closer, curious despite himself. She looked up, eyes glowing faintly gold in the dim light. He flinched, as if struck. The whispering stopped. Silence returned. She resumed her cleaning as though nothing had happened. Rick started noticing other things too. The way she healed. Cuts and bruises faded faster than any alien or human he had ever seen. Even her posture improved each day, as if the chains themselves could not hold her down. He realized, with a shock he tried to suppress, that she was far more than she appeared. He grew frustrated. Every night, he cursed under his breath. "Damned alien," he muttered. "You don't even know how to beg." How to hate me, she did know. She simply chose not to show it. Then came the night when he struck her again. She had dropped a heavy crate, and the metal clanged loudly against the floor. Rick's patience snapped. He slapped her across the face, hard. Blood trickled from her lips. For the first time, he thought she might scream. She did not. She slowly lifted her head, gold eyes locking onto his. Rick felt something foreign. No, not fear. Respect, perhaps. But more than that, a quiet warning. Something ancient, something powerful. Rick swallowed hard. He had treated countless dangerous beings before, but none had looked at him this way. None had made him feel small. She did her eyes, followed him even as he left the room. She did not speak, but the message was clear. She remembered. She was counting. Every insult, every strike, every order. Meanwhile, far away from Caranine, the galaxy was in chaos. Worlds that once bowed to her empire were restless, suspicious. Generals argued over fleets. Spies whispered rumors in dark corridors. And everywhere, people asked the same question. Where is Zyra Vale? She was missing, and she was dangerous. Back in the compound, Rick noticed other oddities. Animals avoided her presence. Machines occasionally sparked. Even the floor beneath her seemed colder, harder. Workers whispered among themselves, but never dared approach her. Some thought she was cursed. Others thought she was a ghost. No one dared speak to her except Rick, and even he felt a growing unease. Yet she never attacked. She never ran. She waited. She healed. She worked. Rick finally muttered one night, almost to himself, "You are not just an alien. You are something else. Something I don't understand." Her eyes glimmered in the dim light. Not at him. Not yet. She simply watched the shadows, as if measuring time, plotting moves far beyond his comprehension. Rick would later remember this as the moment he truly met the silence of a queen. Not a queen of his world, not of humans, not of soldiers. A queen of galaxies, empires, and fear. He did not know her name. He did not know what she had built. He did not know that one day she would stand over him and the galaxy itself would quake at her presence. But she did. She waited, patient, silent, dangerous. The alien woman in chains was not broken. She was a storm waiting for the right moment to strike. And Rick Dannon was standing in the eye of it, oblivious, far beyond Caranine. The galaxy was restless. Reports of missing starships and silent outposts had reached the ears of rulers and generals alike. Whole systems whispered rumors of the Empress's disappearance. She had always ruled with iron precision, and now her absence was a wound felt across the stars. Fear had begun to grow, spreading faster than fire in dry grass. Admiral Kale of the Varelian Dominion paced the deck of his flagship. Every console buzzed with reports from scouts. Every screen showed blinking dots of fleets and planets. He slammed his fist against the table. "Where is she?" he shouted, voice cracking with panic. "She cannot be gone. The Empress is never gone." The Council of Generals tried to calm him, but the worry in their eyes was impossible to hide. Worlds that had once knelt in submission now questioned orders. Rebel factions whispered secrets to spies. Entire planets held their breath. All searched for her, but none could find her trail. Meanwhile, back on Caranine, Rick Dannon was beginning to notice changes he could not explain. The alien woman's eye moved with almost unnatural grace. Her wounds were disappearing faster than any human or alien he had ever seen. Bruises faded. Cuts healed. Her strength returned day by day, and with it, an air of command he could not place. Machines she touched seemed to hum differently, as if responding to her presence. Even the workers avoided her, uneasy under her quiet, glowing gaze. One night, as Rick checked the security logs, he saw something that froze him. The cameras in the storage room had flickered power surges. He assumed but for a moment it was like she had vanished from one camera and appeared on another without moving. He frowned. "That's impossible," he muttered. But deep down, he knew it was not.